right? So it's like, I want to write a book, I want to write a novel, but I want my novel to be full of language and words of the English language that are sort of not heard often, long words, complex words, poetic words, just words that are sort of not in the common, like, the common zeitgeist. Exactly. And I was thinking, like, as a data science project to sort of like fulfill that end, is there a way to sort of visualize all the words in the English language and how these words connect with each other? So this is a program called Obsidian. It's like a note-taking program where you can just like take notes, and like you can connect notes to each other using these like links, right? Like sort of like Wikipedia, like you can sort of like hyperlink something. Well, like in this program, it's like you can hyperlink a note to like another note that you have, right? And the program allows you to sort of like visualize all at once all of these different connections that you have in your vault, right? It's called the graph view, right? You see where I'm going with this? I really want to visualize how all of the words in the English language connect to each other. Is there a way to sort of create a program that visualizes it like this, where it's like every word connects to its synonym, connects to its antonym, and then, we could just continue connecting words like that in like a really large, gorgeous sort of map. And that's what I did. And it's such a large file that Obsidian is indexing as we speak. And while it's indexing, it's like establishing the connections between synonyms in words and antonyms in words in real time. And it's like so fascinating, like, because ordinarily this takes like 2 seconds, but like because it's such a large file and because there's so many entries, we get to kind of see this process take place before our very eyes, right? So I talked about what the longer term goal for a project like this would be, but then also the idea itself sort of further evolved, where it's like, okay, so if you can, and I'm quite sure that you can, it's just a matter of like doing it. If you can sort of visualize the connections of every word in a particular language, say given English, with all of its synonyms and all of its antonyms in a form factor so like akin to this, what would happen if you added another language on top, where it's like the exact same thing that I just described in English, but like let's say for French, like you have the French map, you have the English map, and then what if you put the maps on top of each other, and then we do that again on top for like German, and then again like on top Russian, then again on top Spanish, and we have like this really beautiful, complex sort of like artistic sort of diagram of all these different words and all these different languages and how they relate to each other and how closely they relate to each other based on their proximity and based on the distance between nodes. And maybe the measure of distance is determined by, the level of clarity between the translation. Whether, if it's like a super close translation or it's like literally like a cognate, maybe the distance would be very, very small. Or if the translation is sort of fuzzy, maybe the distance would be sort of farther out, right? Then potentially we might have these like spaces or these zones where we have several nodes representing a word in various languages with, some measure of distance between each other, potentially a small distance if these groupings of words are all referring to something very similarly. In that space, we create a new node, which is like some sort of like amalgamation of all of the words in its surrounding area. And in this process, we are sort of creating a new language that is in some way, shape, or form, equal representative of all of its constituent languages, like sort of like an Esperanto, where we understand that Esperanto was like an artificial language created in an attempt to like bridge gaps, meant to be like a sort of lingua franca and be easy to learn for people that speak Portuguese, people that speak Spanish, people that speak English. It was supposed to be like an easy language for these like these other speakers could learn, so that we can have like a long story short, undo the damage that was done at the Tower of Babel. Okay.